All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. All right, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill, a very tired host today. I'm sorry to say, I just rolled off work right before this, where my brain has been functioning at a higher level than sleeping. So never a good thing. So got Lonnie, St. Louis Kiss.
What's up?
Mark's Almighty, Mark.
Greetings.
Who I've just been insulting as being in Canada and not being worthy of my postal skills.
Yes.
And of course, the voice of reason, 69th Blizzard.
Hello.
And what I was just teasing Mark about was this arrived in the post this week, and it is of course the Kiss in Japan, Madison Square Garden, 40 pages of color photos. There are some black and white actually, because as always, there are some good legacy photos included in here. Alan looks back at some of the shows that I think he attended during this final run, including the 2 Madison Square Garden shows. So you can find him on, I don't have his link immediately available, so I'm just waffling now. You find him on Facebook, you find him on the KissFAQ, and you can order that. It's very much worth the price, and I think I got 3 copies for a very good price, including postage, and they arrived super fast, so well done, Alan. What else new this week? Has anyone bought anything new, Ken?
No, not this week. I did not buy anything this week. So
What is that thing on your bookshelf? I haven't seen it. I was been away 1 week. What's that thing with Gene and Peter and that? They're on over your shoulder.
That's the scarf from the. I showed it last week. If you would have,
I wasn't
would have watched the episode.
You didn't watch the show either.
Jeez.
No.
But it's the scarf that they had. So that's half of the scarf that you're seeing that they had on the New York, sales or the pop-up.
The pop-up store was selling those, and they went like hot cakes. So when they showed up in the Kiss Online store, I was actually thrilled and didn't bother ordering it.
So it's nice. It's nice heavyweight scarf, and that's the one thing I bought from the Kiss Online store when they put it up there.
Nice.
Yeah, but it only works for Kiss fans who have necks, because otherwise there's nothing to keep warm with a scarf. All right, I got to own up to a mistake. We finished round 2 of the death matches last week, and I was doing just a data validation before we go into round 3. And I noticed that I clearly put one song into the wrong container, so it had 2 goes and not out 2 songs. It was, of course, Parasite, which the first time I think went up against Jungle and beat Jungle, but the second time Parasite got pulled out of the hat, it went up against I Want You. And we hummed and hawed about how shameful it was to be knocking I Want You out so early in this game. So what I've done is we put Jungle up against I Want You to correct the universe and also to keep the numbers even. And everyone unanimously voted for Jungle. I Want You. I Want You is unanimous, so that I still need to print out a slip to replace the one I've already thrown in the bin. But yeah, exactly. Thank you. Julian Maths, as always. Actually, it's more Julian Aim, because clearly I hit the wrong bucket.
The wrong basket.
Yeah, wrong basket. So, yeah, the fix is in, clearly. Yeah, just hanging Chads and Julian Maths. Yeah, you just gonna win. I say it now. All right. So that's it. Other late breaking news today. And the source the source is questionable, to be perfectly honest. They have gotten some things right. They have gotten some things extremely wrong, which is par for the course when you want to be, posting the latest, greatest news. Sometimes it may not be completely accurate. This happened twice this week so far. The latest news is, of course, Kiss going out on an acoustic tour in 24-25 unmasked. Lonnie, your lips are tightly pursed. What's your response to that?
My response to that is Paul must have gotten his car washed this week. I mean, does it seem crazy that something like that would happen? Yes. Would I be shocked if that happened? No. Gene did say very clearly in interviews leading up to it, this is the last show we'll ever do in makeup. And he was direct to say this is the last show that the band will ever do in makeup. So would it shock the hell out of me? Absolutely not. I mean, I thought I saw him for the last time 23, almost 24 years ago. So could it happen? I think their point of view may be while we can do it, let's go do it. And would they play arenas? No, absolutely not. They play smaller venues.
Play MTV Unplugged over the PA and mime it.
Right. They'll play smaller venues. They would play smaller venues, and Kiss fans would shell out the money to go, I think. So we'll see what happens.
I think Kiss fans would shell out the money to do the meet and greets and to buy the instruments.
Oh, sure. And there's that aspect as well. That's exactly
probably
right.
one of the most appealing aspects to them, and also to a certain percentage of the fans. Okay, Mark.
Oh, you want me to give me your opinion?
Oh, yeah, please do.
Please do, Mark.
I don't know. Paul strikes me as one of those guys that, he just finished doing a major world tour in like gigantic arenas and stadiums. You honestly think he's going to want to go and play little theaters now and clubs after that? I mean, I kind of feel that he's one of these egotists that wouldn't want to do that, But you never know. Maybe something happened in between now and the end of the show in New York. Maybe he's getting a new divorce or something, and maybe he's gotten robbed half his money again. So maybe he has to go out for another tour again.
Wow.
Because I mean, when that happens to Paul, he finds all kinds of reasons to go out and play again. So, but I haven't heard anything like that. And I will quote a devoted user of the message board here, Mr. Dennis, who said, "Smells like bullshit," and I agree with him that this tour will happen. There you go.
Maybe the buffets at casinos are really good. You never know. Maybe they're just jonesing for catering.
Maybe.
Ken, what do you think?
It's they said it was the last tour, the last final tour ever. So how can they do another tour if that was the final tour?
Because they already did a farewell tour 23 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Got a point.
We all have sucker tattooed on our foreheads.
You do have a point. And the other thing is, how are they going to fix Paul's voice in this situation doing acoustic stuff? They're going to use convention tapes, from or unplugged in order to get through that. No, I just don't. I really do not see that happening. Again, they may fool us, but I just don't see that really happening. I mean, yeah, he's done they do the unplugged or the sound check stuff before the shows, and yes, some of it seems to work, but I don't know if it can go on to a tour or whatever doing that kind of stuff. I don't think his voice would hold up very long at all past a couple of songs.
Now, Ken, there is
even at that, it's rough.
There is someone on the board here. Member So Cruel says, "Does the vocal smoothing pedal work with acoustic also?" So maybe he has technology that could help with the acoustic part.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's AI vocals, I guess you could call it. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right, and it doesn't seem that they would call it a tour if they did it.
Okay, would you go, Ken? Ken, if they said they
I'd
going
go.
to
But I go, yeah.
Rancheria.
I want to hear the deeper cuts. Hopefully, if that happened, and especially the Gene.
Oh,
because,
Ken.
but we're gonna have
Oh.
maybe the Gene Simmons thing.
Recreating MTV Unplugged, literally
Right.
and figuratively.
Yeah, I'd go. Yeah, sure, I'd probably go. It's just the way it is, I guess. So
Yeah, Lonnie, would you?
Of course I'd go. I mean, come on. and that's why they would do it, because of course I'd
people
go.
are gonna pay for it.
Because we're idiots.
You know? So
Oh, look, shiny shit. Take my money.
right.
I don't believe you guys. You know, it's
Of course
unbelievable.
I'd go. Come on. I do a
I
Kiss
would
podcast
not
every week.
go,
Of course
okay?
I'd go.
The only way I would go to this is if they got, Crownlands to open the acoustic tour. You know, if they were opening, then I'd
course.
go. But other than that, I'd forget it. You know, what for? What deep cuts, Ken? Come on, Ken. You know I love you like a brother, but you honestly think they're going to do any sort of deep cuts on an acoustic tour? They can hardly get through the classics. Come on.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I never say never. At this point, I'm
never
just
say
kind of
never.
chuckling or chortling over this whole thing. After spending a shit ton of money to go to New York for those two shows, to see the drama still going on about the fucking golden tickets. And I just don't think, I know this is Kiss, but I really don't think that they would be letting that sort of rumor out this soon. I mean,
I
Corpse
don't
is
think
still
6
kind
weeks
of
later
warm.
you can have this
A
going
little
on.
early, yeah.
It's a little bit too soon. You know what? It is Kiss. Anything's possible. Would it be in good taste? Yeah, I don't think so. Mainly because I think vocally, there's only so many excuses that can be made for how bad it really got at some parts of this last tour. And I will say that Paul did a better job during sound checks doing the songs that he was doing
Yeah.
than often what it sounded like during the shows. I'm not gonna fucking snow job people anymore and try and pretend that it wasn't what it was, because it wasn't what it should have been, and it couldn't be. So I accept it for what it is, because I still wanted more. Does that make any sense? Probably
Yes.
not. But you know what I mean.
It made perfect sense, actually.
Yeah, so we are Kiss zombies and we can't stop, but I think it would be a big mistake. Now, Gene, on the other hand, is now announced to be going to Brazil with his solo band. And it is not Zach Throne, who was mentioned and then unmentioned himself. But I don't think it matters who is in the band with him. I know Eric and Bruce were not mentioned, but I mean, again, people want to hear Gene Simmons sing Gene songs, not whomever else is backing him up do anything other than back him up and keep singing the correct lyrics when Gene takes a left turn at Albuquerque. Have the dude's back and remind him that he wrote some pretty badass songs like Charisma, She's So European, Hot and Cold, and a whole bunch of other ones that fans would love to hear that don't necessarily have to do unto his voice what Paul did unto his. Ken, do you get excited about Gene? Come on, you're the Gene guy.
Of course I do. Of course I do. I'm hoping he, hits the major cities, gets, does a little tour, his Gene Simmons band. So I'm hoping for it. I mean, if it's not in Northern California, if it's Southern California, I'll probably go down there. So yeah, I look forward to something like that. I missed the Gene Simmons band the first go around. We were gonna, you and I, Julian, were gonna go to that Riverside one, and that was canceled, unfortunately. So I still have yet to see that Gene Simmons band. So
yeah, there were two shows down south that were on the schedule. I've still got my stubs from those, and again, I did Edmonton. I think for this go round in 2024, Paul Stanley has had one live Kiss, which is absolutely fantastic as a release, and still needs to be done on vinyl. I think Gene Simmons needs to have Gene Simmons Band, the video, and a double blood red LP as well. He needs to record, do a couple of nights in a theater, ship in all the usual suspects for eye candy at the front row, and record those shows.
Chicago.
Hmm?
That happened at One Live Kiss. I
Yeah,
stood in line. I stood in line since I got in line at noon that day, and was leaning up against the barricade. And Paul's getting ready to come on. They cherry pick girls out of the audience to stand in between the barricade. And
of course.
It was great.
What red-blooded American man wouldn't? When you need inspiration from the stage, do you want to look at Lonnie or do you want to look at something else? Yeah.
I'm not eye candy, let me tell you.
Yeah, same goes for me. They're going to say, put that fucker right in the back. Lonnie, you've seen Gene Simmons' band.
I have.
So what do you think about that?
I'm with. I mean, again, I'm like someone mentioned earlier. I'm a Kiss zombie. Of course, I'd go to that if it came through. It was actually a lot of fun seeing that because Gene doesn't just play the random, or the I shouldn't say the random. He doesn't play the standards Kiss set list. He played Plastercaster that night. He played, I think, Charisma, and I think he played Almost Human that night too. Just some cool shit that you're not gonna hear, you're not gonna see, and he's if you're going to that, Gene's smart enough that he understands if you're gonna go see the Gene Simmons solo band, you're not there for the Kiss show. You're there because you're pretty much a diehard if you're going to go see the Gene Simmons solo band in a theater. And I appreciate that he rewards the fans who come out to see him with those deeper cuts. So, for sure I'd go. I think I'd go, like Ken said, if it doesn't come, Ken said, if it doesn't come to Northern California, I'll go to Southern California to see it. And, if Gene did something like that, if it doesn't come here, I'd find a spot to go see it.
Yeah. You do realize that now that Kiss is not a touring act for the time being or foreseeable future.
As far as we know.
That could possibly start changing the dynamic of what Gene performs, because Gene may be in the mindset, well, people want to hear Calling Dr. Love. People want to hear Deuce. Yeah, you're right. Fucking damn right, Gene. I want to hear Deuce. But now it changes because you can't hear Kiss doing them live, but you can still hear the voices of Kiss, or one of them doing it. So that's my one concern about him going out on the road now, is that he's going to be a Gene Simmons of Kiss greatest hits machine and just play kind of the cookie cutter things that one expects from him. Someone said Ladies Room, and
that'd be great.
I wouldn't complain at that. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, I'd probably go see it. I mean, the band that he usually has with him are great musicians, and they do the music really well, and those guys can also sing it well too. So that's a very good lure to go and see a show like that. But it's really funny because I remember when this first started coming up, there was an initial post that I saw with somebody actually saying that Eric Singer and Bruce were playing with him at first, and then that quickly disappeared, and then this new thing came up, which is kind of odd. Because when I first saw, like, really, they're going to go out to like those three? I thought at first that was really kind of that immediately piqued my interest if it was going to be Bruce and Eric with him going on there with some other guitar player. That I would go for sure because Bruce, right? But even still, I'd probably go and see this. But very valid point, Julian, about this whole dynamic now changing with Kiss now being no longer an active band anymore. Will he just go back to the Kiss standards? Hopefully not. I think Gene is a smart enough guy to realize that the main allure, I think, of his touring act was the fact that he didn't play just those songs, that he did do the, songs that we never get to hear. I mean, throw in Mr. Blackwell. I mean, when was the last time that was ever played live? I mean, that would be great to hear something like that, even though I'm not a big Elder fan, but I mean, just to hear him play that with a band of musicians that could do it probably really well. I would go for sure if I knew that he was playing some deep stuff. Sure, of course he's going to do Deuce, and he's going to do some of the ones that you expect for him that are signature Gene Simmons songs. But I think that we'll still get some deeper cuts in there.
Yeah, but I am not in the least bit going to be surprised if fans are also getting off on hearing him do "I Love It Loud" and War Machine.
Yeah.
Again, just
Yeah,
because
sure.
we love the songs, and now again, it's the only way. Yeah, good comments from the audience. Thank you all for joining us live today as well, and for chiming in with your comments. You guys help make the live shows super fun, so we do appreciate you. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens and what happens for all of them. Ace's album's coming out. 10,000 Volts is coming out next month. So there's going to be one band member with new music out there. He's hitting the road very shortly, isn't he? Out in the Midwest next week, I think. So I don't remember. Lonnie, predictions for 2024. Now that we've settled into the year slightly, what you look into your crystal ball? What do you see as most likely happening, rather than what you would most like to happen?
Most likely happening. I most likely don't see the Kiss acoustic tour happening, although we all got a good laugh about it at the start of the show. Most likely, I think that's far-fetched. Could it happen? Sure. But I'm going to say, what do I most likely see happening? I most likely see some color vinyl reissues that will continue to happen. I most likely see maybe a Kiss Alive 5 of Madison Square Garden come out. Things like that. Would I can't even say I most likely see a deluxe box set of something coming out right now, because I can't say that right now because we haven't gotten one in over a year. And everybody, whenever I love being on Facebook, and whenever somebody brings up that, everybody just criticizes the person for asking whatever happened. But don't you love that? Somebody brings it up on Facebook or something in a Kiss script. They go, "Hey, whatever happened to the off the soundboard or a box set?" And the guy just gets beat railed. Don't you know that? I'm like, oh my God, the guy can ask a fucking question for Christ's sake.
Kiss fans are like piranhas in more ways than one.
It's like,
where have you been, man?
Are you fucking stupid? but what I most likely see are more colored vinyls, maybe a DVD, Blu-ray type thing of the last 50 dates, in a Live 5. I don't see a whole lot actually outside of that, to be perfectly honest. And maybe Gene does some dates in the States. I think that could happen.
Okay, go from Mr. Positivity there to Mark.
Sorry.
Yeah, I see nothing. No, I'm joking. I think what will probably happen, and this is just gut feeling, I think they're gonna probably address and put to bed this whole thing with their brand. I think that now that they're off the road and they're done, and they don't have to worry about touring and stuff like that, I think they're going to address some business matters at hand. Because one thing is for certain, touring was a large part of their income, as we all know. Now that income is now dead in the water, you better believe Gene Simmons and Paul are going to be still looking for other ways to capitalize on receiving money more often again. So if there's one thing they're probably going to tackle is this business end of stuff. Will they continue to pursue that? Will they get done, or will it just mean what Lonnie was saying earlier? Will they now go full on and take the whole off the board thing more seriously? Will they take the reissues more seriously? Will they do a box set more seriously now that they have a lot more time to get involved in it, because there's no more touring for them to do anymore? Or, it's funny because there's a guy here, just Mizzy's BDGB put Kiss the Musical. I mean, he put that there as a joke. But you never know with these guys. Maybe they'll try to do some, live Broadway Kiss thing. I would never put it past them to do something like that. As long as Bob Ezrin's not involved, I'll be all in for it. But if he's involved with it musically, I'm out. But you never know, because with these guys, they want to find new avenues of money and cash to come in. And when you're not a touring band anymore, you have to be, adventurous and try things. There you go. No, I was serious. So there you go. Maybe he knows something we don't know. But who knows? They have to. I think they have to do something to continue to bring in some money Doesn't have to be huge amounts, but just enough to keep the coffers kind of full, right? That's what I think is going to happen.
Imagine waking up on December the 4th and you turn on your tap and $20 bills no longer come out, only pennies.
Yes, that's the Gene Simmons residence, right?
That's kind of the end of touring. Just the visual that I get for these guys is all of a sudden a whole bunch of things that they were used to. Just another 6-figure check, and I have no idea how it all operates. I'm just making shit up. It's raining. I'm gonna wash myself in Grant 50s today. And then it stops. You can just see Sophie. Papa, I'm hungry.
I want some more.
The caviar is not fresh. All right, Ken, your turn.
She sounds like that girl from Willy Wonka, right?
Right.
Anyway, Gene Simmons. We know it's probably happening. So do I need to predict it? No. I do predict the box set this year. I think it, because otherwise I think it'd be a huge miss, being the 50th anniversary, especially of the first couple of albums hitting 50 years old. It just seems to me it would be a huge miss to not take advantage of that. The whole 50, it's 50, instead of doing something smaller. As far as Paul Stanley, maybe a Soul Station album, number 2. I think it's possible, because I know he was still interested in. I think I thought he wanted to do another one after the first one. So maybe he will do that. I think he can do that because he can sing in the falsetto. And songs that are in that high register, he can do that, like he did a lot on his first album. And maybe a Bruce Kulick solo, possibly, now that he has a lot of time. And maybe they'll do, or Eric Singer project, another ESP thing would be cool. So those are some things I think that could happen this year.
Okay. What could happen versus what I really wish. I have to go now and play by the rules I laid out for Lonnie. Damn it. I think the colored vinyl and just bullshit, merch is most likely. I don't see Paul Stanley any sort of album. He started doing his Wentworth art stuff again, so I wouldn't be surprised if that comes back into focus for him, that we see something like a publication, an art book by Paul Stanley, because he's already done the lifestyle book, and he doesn't seem to be cooking as much at the moment.
I don't know. He was posting pictures.
Cooking and or art as strong possibilities for Paul in terms of print and limited edition stuff that can just be serviced at a high dollar amount. Appears a signed art book of Paul's favorite prints and little single paragraphs about the inspiration next to them, a couple of cooking tips, and boom, you've got a coffee table book. But other than that, I really don't see. I just don't see much happening. It just doesn't feel like there's no traction. Yeah, because I want to be wrong, Lonnie. I want to be wrong. I want to have all your ideas and dreams come true so that I'm wrong and I can be happy as a result. It's pure selfishness. Maybe here's one: cooking meatballs. Maybe you're going to see Paul Stanley's recipes in Costco or whatever your favorite store is. Paul Stanley's frozen pizzas. Why not?
Frozen pizzas.
It's frozen Brussels sprouts.
Get them at Walmart
in 5 minutes.
In the shape of a star.
Yeah. That's a good idea. That's a good idea, Lonnie.
Oh, yeah. I'm just
shaped in the star. That'd be awesome. People will buy that.
Quick, trademark it.
There you go.
Star. There you go. All right. Paul Stanley, since we're talking about the Star Child.
Yes.
he did an interview with Ultimate Classic Rock, and this just dropped this afternoon. And he's suggesting that Kiss fans, you guys,
Mhm.
you as well, got the wrong impression initially about the avatars. And I'm just going to go to Ultimate Classic Rock.
We got it wrong.
We got
Paul
it
was
wrong.
right. Paul
They
was
didn't
right.
present
We
it
were
right,
wrong.
maybe.
Paul was
Well,
right. We were
well,
Now let Julian say what he's going to say first.
back it up, Ken. Hold on
Easy there,
for a
Ringo.
minute. Here we go. All right. So one thing that's interesting is people, I think, perhaps even understandably, got the wrong impression initially of the avatars. The Star Child tells Ultimate Classic Rock, because at the garden shows we wanted to give people a glimpse of some of the things, or one of the things that's to come. But the avatars are really in their infancy. In other words, they're half baked and weren't ready to go. They're far from where they'll end up in terms of look and purpose. So they don't look good either. The purpose ultimately is not that we're being replaced by flying avatars. It's just another way of diversifying what Kiss is. Well, I can actually say I agree with the last sentence.
Yeah.
But apart from that, this is the biggest show of your career, ending it. And it was all a setup for something that we misinterpreted. Rather than being half-baked, not ready to go, jammed down our throats, reading the room and the mood wrong. But it was us that got it wrong. I got to go to Mark first on this.
I think that let's put it this way: if people's reaction weren't so poor to it, he would never have put this out, this whole thing. Because if everybody said, "Wow, that was awesome and fantastic," then they wouldn't have said nothing. They'd just be like, "That's right, it looks awesome. There's more to come. See you in 2025 or whatever," and then that's it. But since people were all writing around the net saying that they didn't like it and what the hell is this and it doesn't look right and Paul looks weird or whatever on it, then of course they have to go down to damage control. That's what this is all, just damage control. They're like, because who knows? They could have told the guys, "All right, guys, we got it all done. You're ready to show." Because think about it. Do you think Kiss? Now I got to think about this hard myself, but do you really think that Kiss would go out there and present something like that if they knew it wasn't done properly? I don't think that I would like to think that they're not the kind of people that would go and show something half baked to an audience at that important a show. But this is Kiss we're talking about, right? That this is Kiss we're talking about. So maybe they did go in with that sort of thing. Maybe we can pull a fast one on them and just let them see it. They'll believe it. That'll get better down the line, But I think that was a mistake to think of it that way, because you could. What's that saying? You only have one chance to make a first impression. So, and if that was the first impression, it wasn't made very well with the people, And listen, you have to come clean. Either that was as good as they could do it, and that's why you showed it to us, or, just admit that you weren't fully ready with it yet, but you wanted to just show us something anyways. Because I get the feeling that they thought that it was good, and that's why they showed it. Maybe now they just have to put it into more, they have to up the ante a bit, and make it a bit better for the people that don't think that it looks good, which is the majority of this.
We're delusional. No, we're not delusional. We're trying to be rational and doing what ifs. We are delusional. We're all going to the acoustic tour. Even Mark. So yeah, okay, we're delusional. I'm good with that.
Yes.
Lonnie, first impressions you only get to make once.
I think it's crazy that's the story. That's what we're going with, is that, well, they weren't ready. People, we're just showing people what's to come. But you chose. It's not about my reaction. You chose that we're gonna fade off into the smoke, and when the smoke fades away, the avatar, this commercial for avatars are gonna come out. You chose for that to be the way you exit the stage for the final time. It's not the way I interpret it. It's how you chose to go off. So much so that 2 minutes after they're off stage and they're interviewing Gene backstage, and people are congratulating him, Gene just off the cuff goes to somebody, "Oh, did you see the Avatar? Did you see the commercial?" Like, he was so proud of it. He wanted to make sure that the people walking by him saw that. If you go watch the pay-per-view, he says that. Oh, did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see
Yeah.
the Avatar? No, they were really proud of it. And because they got backlash, it's my fault that I misinterpreted it. But you chose to go out, like Julian said, you chose to go out after your biggest and last show. That's how you chose to move on. You could have gone on. You could have gone out any other way. You just could have gone with a bang and a cloud of dust and nothing. And I think we all would just sort of breathe, exhaled, and say, "It's finished. That's it." But no, you chose to go out that way. It's not the way I interpret it. It's how you presented it.
Yeah, and again, it's why is that interpretation so broadly kind of agreed on? I mean, Kiss fans don't agree on shit, but everyone
We all
I've
agree on the
spoken
Avatar,
to,
though.
it is a very small minority, and there are some people who thought it was awesome. There are some people who thought it was the greatest thing. It was like having the noose from the hangman loosened around their necks, that there was still hope for something from Kiss in the future. I get that side of things. I get that side that side of devotion and all that. But for the vast majority of people, I guess in my circles, we were all of the same mind as what the fuck. And now Paul has basically come out and said, yeah, it was half baked. It wasn't ready to go. It wasn't very good. It's pretty shitty. We're starting from a very low bar here, but it's going to get better. Yeah. With a little bit of medicine, it'll be walking.
Yes.
Yeah, I did not misinterpret. Gene had a bigger head than the other guys. Tommy looked good on the Avatar. Paul, I don't know what that was. Looked sad. And the Eric Singer, sorry, or Peter Criss, kind of, that would look like a mix of the two. It looked something. It was presented, and it was unfinished work. It wasn't even finished. It's like a demo, right? As a music demo, it's not finished. It's just there. It's not. It's final, good finished product. The other thing is, I would have rather them have had the smoke come out, and then 4 live guys on stage as a Kiss 2.0. I think that would have been actually more exciting to me than these avatars. Just have 4 guys like, hey, well, this is it. These are the guys. And I was like, well, I wonder who that guy is. Who did they get? It'd be a mystery kind of thing. That would have been more exciting than what they did. The other thing is, if they did the avatars, they should have, again, waited until they had a good, solid, finished product, closer to final. And I would have rather them, instead of, why are you using current aging Kiss and not using the classic Kiss? I think that would have been more exciting if they could have represented the original lineup and when they looked like when they were younger in like classic, maybe outfits, costumes and stuff like that.
Because then we're going to use Ace and Peter's likeness, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah,
they could. Yeah,
they can't do that legally
because of their face likeness, right?
That's why you get the Ace.
Unless they pay them.
1975.
They can use the makeup,
but they don't want to pay them.
But they cannot use the likeness.
And that's the problem with this whole thing is, will they even attempt to do something like that as a touring band show Avatar thing? They can't even use their likeness at all. It's like, well, shoot, that's what I want to see. I want to see the originals. I like to see all different eras, but I'd like to definitely have the originals and have something in the, Eric Carr at some point and whatever. I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's a good idea. Just thinking more and more about it. Yeah,
that Gene Simmons Avatar looked like it's ready to sing Back to the Stone Age. I mean, it was very Neanderthal looking. But like someone said, in the comments, the tech is just so bad. I was watching Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny. Sue me. I was flying back from England. It was on the airplane. Yeah, and I thought the graphics, the CGI to Ethan Harrison Ford in that were fantastic. They were actually far more believable than Peter Cushing in the those dreadful Star Wars pieces of trash. And obviously they had the living guy to work with from that for a framework, so it can be done. It can be done to make them look younger, because Dial of Destiny shows me that the technology is able to do it seamlessly for my eyes. Now opinions are going to vary on that, obviously.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's no one thing for everyone. Let's move on to, you mentioned Eric Carr incorrectly, Ken, but it's a nice segue to Martin Popoff's top 20 bands that were improved by new drummers. And Martin, obviously Martin's a monster. He included Eric Carr at number 4 in his ranking. And yeah, sure, it's just another fucking list, but it's one that Kiss is mentioned in and Eric Carr is mentioned in, so it is fantastic. But I want to ask you guys, if Martin was going to do the top 20 lead guitarists, bands improved by the lead guitarist being changed, would you include Vinnie Vincent for $200 in that ranking as someone who came in and replaced a lead guitarist and was one of the top 20 bestest guys to ever do that? Lonnie's thinking furiously. How do I say no politely? Or not politely? In all caps. Save that for Mark.
So who are we going for, Lonnie or me?
Lonnie.
Okay. Well, how many bands? Okay, well, I guess you got to think. Well, how many bands have changed lead guitarists? I mean, a lot of times a band changes. I mean, I can't put Guns N' Roses up there with replacing Slash with Buckethead. So that one's out. Like I guess solo Ozzy changed lead guitarist multiple times.
Yeah, but it went Randy to Brad, so it didn't go to Jake. So you're not really.
Yeah, and then it went from Jake to Zach. And Ozzy's had a lot of good lead guitarists.
I got an answer.
I the top 20. Maybe 18 or 19 or 20, maybe. I wouldn't say. But I mean, he but I guess from a songwriting perspective, though, Vinny came in and presented material and gave them hits that they still play to today. So, I mean, that has to be that, you have to weigh that in also. So I think maybe I'm going to say yes, because he did provide a lot of material, kind of gave them a shot in the arm. Creativity wise, I mean, look what they were putting out before they brought Vinnie Vincent in for the Creature sessions with the Elder and with Unmasked, and they're kind of sputtering a little bit. So you know what? No, I'm going to say yes, top 20. I'm not going to say high 20s, but top 20.
I mean, it's very difficult to think of kind of 19 other bands to apply that equation to. I was just thinking of one, but I've already forgotten it. Mark.
Yeah, I think so. I think Vinny definitely did. I mean, as much as we belittle him on here or say bad things about it, I mean, the thing is, when he was on record with them, like for Creatures and for mainly Lick It Up, obviously, where he's like 90% writer of those songs. I mean, of all those songs, I mean, I think that he definitely did add something to it that they were in sore need of. I mean, because let's put it this way. We all know Ace is very much a sound of the 70s Kiss, and he has a very blues pentatonic way of playing solos and has a certain feel to it. But we were in the 80s then, and the 80s had shown us a great change in guitar playing at that point. And Ace's playing was looked at as sort of relic-y, dinosaur-y at that point, whereas Vinnie Vincent was very much on the cusp or had the finger on the pulse of what was cool and happening at that time, and that's why it fit and it worked with him. And when even when he was gone, they just continued to look for players in that similar vein. Mark St. John, Bruce Kulick, they were all people who could do that style of guitar playing. And it became a part of the sound that they continued on with. So yeah, I think no matter what we think of Vinny now and what he's done, he definitely did do something very important at that time.
Nice. Yeah. Very, very rational as well. All right, Ken, you've got an answer.
No,
Let us have it.
Not really. No, I was gonna say, Ace came back in '96. So anyway, no, he came back as a replacement for Bruce, but
But he didn't improve on Bruce. He just turned.
No, he didn't improve on Bruce. That's true.
Yeah,
and I don't think anyone improved on Ace either. Vinny is just a different animal, so to speak. But I think it was the right guitarist at the right time, especially with his playing was the latest style and that sort of thing, like Mark said, but his songwriting was the other part of Vinny that really improved, as when he co-wrote with Paul or Gene. Those songs really, they came out really, really good. So I think, I don't know if I'd make that, like Lonnie said, top 10, maybe top 15 to 20, like he said, because there's a lot of guitarists that have been replaced in a lot of bands over the years.
Yeah, I think the sentiment was original bands that had made a mark rather than, and you get bands like Iron Maiden. Well, I can only think of Dennis Stratton to Adrian Smith, and Adrian, I think, to Yannick. But I can't remember what the sequence is in Maiden, because they've had like 800 members in the club days. Whether that was kind of the established. I know that was because Dennis toured in 1980, obviously, and then Adrian comes in, and that's a definite improvement. But there was nothing wrong with Dennis. Whitesnake, think of some of those guitarists. There was a real good one from the Opal Archive, Pink Floyd. David Gilmour for Syd Barrett.
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Because both were brilliant. I mean, I think Syd is probably stronger in the songwriting department, but David fucking Gilmour and that guitar playing, that is some sweet fucking tone, that guy. His solos, and again, he's done a lot of the writing. I'm sure Roger Waters would disagree, but he disagrees with everything. So I think Vinny would make the list, just because he comes in with a completely different dynamic, replacing such a visually important and sonically. I mean, think of the signature sound of Kiss is replaced. And what they do for the 2 albums that he's in, or 2.5 albums that he's involved in, really would put him on the list. I don't think he'd get as high as Eric Carr did, though, at number 4, because I think he just comes with a little bit too much baggage that would just keep knocking him down, But I think he would get a shout. Talking about Ace. Ace is doing the PR rounds for 10,000 volts, and all sorts of interesting things are coming out. He owes the IRS money and can't get his passport renewed. Therefore, he cannot tour internationally, which is why he hasn't been over the pond, apart from the costs in Europe are now horrendous with inflation for touring musicians. But what do you think about Ace's PR strategy? Do you think he's going a little bit too far, especially now with some of the digs towards Paul Stanley? Or is it fair, since, Paul has obviously called Ace and Peter piss, but now Ace is firing back with stuff like, I can still sing, I can play Rings Around Paul, but I can't tour Europe because I owe the taxman. Ken, start with you on that.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't done any PR in the past, and maybe there's a reason he hasn't done a lot of PR on previous albums, but I don't know. I think it's we're used to what the stuff that happens and what they say, these little digs that come out. He can sing better than Paul now, but not much better than Paul now, maybe. But definitely not in the past. When Paul's voice was in fine form back in the day. So that's can't put that up against him. And the other thing about I don't know if he should mention his tax problems. I don't know how that helps. That's why he needs to sell more albums, maybe, to make up for, I guess, that 200,000 that he said that he needs to come up with to pay back the IRS. And that's one of the reasons, I guess, maybe they're going to try to say, well, I can pay back because if I get this tour in Europe, I'll make a bunch of money there. And I'll pay it back.
Could have paid it back by showing up in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Would they offer him $2,000? Did they offer him $200,000?
I think they offered him $250,000. I'm not sure. I'd have to.
He could have done probably a bunch of meet and greets in next
obviously
door
the
or
tax man
something,
would get the cut first
and made a
then
bunch of
take
money.
The rest.
He could have done a bunch of meet and greets and sold a bunch of guitars, signed guitars, and priced them to whatever, $15,000, and made a whole bunch of money there while Kiss was playing, next door, and he wouldn't have to worry about the taxes.
Could have stood outside Madison Square Garden with a guitar case open, playing the solo.
Garden's playing
No. You guys are all getting this wrong. Okay.
Then tell us why we're wrong.
Go ahead.
You're wrong because Ace Frehley has a problem. Ace Frehley has no concept of money and what it's worth and what to do with money. Here's a guy who's been in financial trouble how many times now in his career? While he was with Kiss, when he was out of Kiss, when he came back to Kiss, now he's out of Kiss. This guy has no fucking clue. I mean, even in his own videos that he had back when he had that, that Rock Soldier magazine thing that he did, the video thing, they were showing some of these things. They were talking. He was constantly looking for cash. I need money for my computer. I need this. I need that. The guy had no fucking money anytime, and he's openly admitted that he's a gambler. The guy goes to Vegas. The guy has $200,000 in debt, and he admits on national radio that he goes and plays the tables all the time. That's smart. That's exactly what the IRS wants to hear. That you're going there and spending your fucking money. What an idiot, I mean, and you're telling me now that he, going to play a tour in Europe is going to solve it? No, it's not, because even if he got the money, he'd fucking blow it again. He that's how he is. And it's all going to be the same thing. Oh, it's just Ace. It's just Ace. What a guy. Okay, great, but he's going to go behind bars one of these days, because if he doesn't pay his fucking taxes, then that's the end of that. And they said that he's lost his fucking house, or it's going up for sale already now. Like, this is serious stuff. We're all laughing here about it, but he's there must be something wrong up here with him if he hasn't learned already by fucking 3-4 times that this has happened. That it's his fault. It's not nobody else's but his.
It's always the same with rock stars. They live in a bubble for the most part. Very few of them are the brilliant businessmen they present themselves to be. They are simply selling their names and slapping that shit on stuff as advertising. They're not the people who come up with the ideas. They're not the creative forces in most ideas who develop them. I'm working on Aerosmith Volume 2 and finishing writing the 9 Lives chapter, which of course has them firing their manager who resuscitated their fucking lives and their careers, Tim Collins. And, there are some quotes in there, Steven Tyler spending $38,000 the day before a meeting on clothing, and Tim warning him that he was going to go bankrupt if he didn't, modify his spending habits. How many times have we heard that from these people who make a lot of money in a very short time, but just have 0 sense when it comes to that, and surround themselves with people who are basically, I don't want to say leeches, because they just can help consume the money at a far faster burn rate than otherwise. So, tax problems. I don't think you do interviews and just turn that into a laughing matter. A lot of the things that he's done PR-wise are a little cringeworthy. I want to hear about the guitar solos. I want to hear about working with Steve Brown and why this album is different than other albums. I don't want to see him grocery shopping and looking at cucumbers.
That was weird. Most musicians and I'll throw athletes into this as well. I mean, how many times do you see athletes that make a huge amount of money in a small amount of time and are broke shortly thereafter? Musicians and athletes don't come into this huge amount of money because they're financial wizards. They came into this money because they have a talent, whether it's music, whether it's sports, whatever. And to what Julian said, they surround themselves by, a lot of them surround themselves by people who think they have their best interest at heart, but they don't. And they think the gravy train will never stop. I mean, athletes are very guilty of this, thinking that, I'm gonna make this kind of money forever. And musicians the same way. And you see it time and time again. And it's not just Ace Frehley. I mean, there's plenty of there are plenty of musicians who were very successful 20, 30 years ago who have none of that money left. And like I said, it's not because they didn't earn this money because they were financially savvy and made these smart moves. They had a God-given talent and were successful because of it. But I still laugh at it because Ace is, I don't know what his exact age is, but he is who he is at this point in his life, though, too. I mean, he's not going to change.
But come on, Lonnie, you're a smart guy, and I know that you're referring to sports. Well, but I know that you're referring to sports people because you talk about like football players and basketball players. They make huge money. Some get huge contracts. But I mean, I think at this point, most football players have probably realized that you probably got 5-7 years tops before maybe you're too hurt to continue to play.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So you probably have to, you probably have to be a bit wiser with your money now. I think that's kind of probably a known thinking, right? Of course, and there are people that probably still will blow it. And anyways, like you said, there's some people just don't learn from their mistakes, right? But I think that there's also a kind of logic in it now when you come up to kind of watch your money now. Even now, when I read stories of a musician saying that they made a big mistake back in, let's say, the 90s, they lost a bunch of money, but now when they came back, management got them back on track. They didn't make the same mistake again. They went down. They trimmed some of the fat out of their spending and stuff like that, and now they're okay. They're not maybe like millionaires, but they have enough cash to go through it. But it just seems like Ace doesn't learn from those mistakes,
I'm not making excuses for him or anything like that.
I know.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of guys out there, and it's not just there's just a lot of people out there in general, not just musicians or athletes, who just don't know the first thing about what to do with any kind of money that's in their pocket.
This is the United States of America, where the vast majority of people live on credit cards with high balances. It is known fact. I'm not even going to insult you by telling you to do your own research. The debt load in America is absolutely insane compared with many other parts of the world. So irresponsible spending just exists at the bottom and the top.
USA.
And no one's going to teach anyone else fiscal responsibility. Everyone gets a cut out of Ace. Everyone gets a cut out of him. Everyone owns a piece of his ass. So, I just hope he stays healthy and stays out on the road and gets all that shit sorted out, because I know the European fans will love to see him. And that's the bottom line for what I give a shit about. Want him to be healthy, happy. Guy is in his 70s. He says, people around him need to get him the financial advice that he needs. If he's got that sort of tax bill, he needs professional help. I don't mean that nastily. So
now, Julian, just really quickly before we go to the next thing, remember that time when Three Sides did that special where they went to Ace's house and they showed that guy who helped him sell some of his guitars, and he had that trailer in his yard there and stuff like that. And when they sold all those things to help him get rid of a huge tax bill or something. Even back then, that was like 2000, wasn't it? 2001 or something like that. Remember when Three Sides did a special on that? We had that guy.
I don't think Three Sides has been around since 2001. They are.
Well, no. I'm saying that they talked to the guy who helped Ace at that time. He had some. Yeah, remember he had that tractor trailers thing in his backyard.
Like,
remember, and he had all this stuff.
Sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah, they did an episode on that. And that's what I'm saying. Even back then, he had a huge, major tax thing, major financial issue where they had to help him sell tons of guitars, memorabilia, costumes, everything like that. And that was back then. Again, you see what I mean? Like that's just the thing that bothers me about it. He went through a really big situation like that already back then, and he's back in it again. I mean, I don't know. I even think sometimes that if he went back to Kiss and they gave him like a guaranteed $3 million a year to come back to play with them, he would still find a way to get in trouble somehow.
I think they probably used his financial issues against him. It's not like they wouldn't know. So it becomes a bargaining chip or a tool. Let's end on, and hope Mark returns, on just a single thought. Lonnie, what are you going to miss the most about Kiss being gone? And that's assuming for now that Kiss really is gone.
Assuming there is no acoustic tour. What am I going to miss the most? I'm going to miss the anticipation. I'm going to miss the anticipation and the lead up of going to a show. I'm going to miss getting up in the morning and checking set lists on my phone at the start of the tour, because God knows after 3 or 4 shows you're like, okay, this is what it is. But I think, I miss the excitement of around a tour starting. I miss the excitement around going to a tour. I'm gonna miss the camaraderie that exists between like me and my brother going to a show together and experiencing that together. I think more than anything else. And just the camaraderie that exists amongst the Kiss Army, and I hope that there's expos and things like that in the future that we can come together and celebrate the band. But there's something different about seeing the band live, though.
I like this. We're ending on a kumbaya note. Mark, what are you going to miss the most about Kiss allegedly being gone?
Well, I think a lot of the stuff that Lonnie hit on is true for me too. I mean, those mornings where you would get up and check your phone and see what's going on. Oh, they started a tour. What did they play last night in Europe or whatever? That certain part, it's mainly based around the live aspect, right? Because that was the thing that you didn't know what to expect, or if they're going to do a new stage set or new costumes or something. That's the thing that I always kind of found great enjoyment with. We always talked about those things on the podcast here. Now, of course, there's still going to be things to talk about, I'm sure. If Julian and Ken and these guys are right about what's going to be coming down the line, hopefully there'll be a box set or something. We'll still have stuff to talk about, and I'm sure that individually these guys will still do stuff out there that'll make us have something to talk about. We look at Gene already; he's going to be touring in the new year, so there'll be stuff to talk about, right?
Yep, indeed. All right, Ken, what are you going to miss? And don't say nothing at all, because I'm still really enjoying the ride.
No, I'm not gonna say that.
Wow.
I'm not gonna say that. It's very similar to like Lonnie and Mark. The live stuff. Being able to think well, they're gonna go on tour again, and here's another chance to get a chance to see them live, which is just always a great experience, with the crowd and the whole show and everything. And, whether I go with Julian or someone else, it's always a great time to experience with other people. As far as the rest of it, the missing, I'll miss it if they stop doing something, completely, if they completely just cut everything off, which I don't think they're going to do that, because they need to keep the money coming in, even though I'm sure they have plenty, but to keep it coming in while they can, I guess that's where I'm hoping for these other releases, or surprise us with something else different that we haven't even thought of that they might
Avatars.
do. Except for
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Except for what kind of surprise is that though?
Sock puppets.
So yeah, something
Cleaned up avatars.
Cleaned up, fixed. Yeah, well, finished and approved avatars. Not
Don't misinterpret it.
Baked.
Come on.
I don't want half baked avatars. It's like a half baked pizza. Paul, come on, half baked pizza. Why would you do a half baked avatar?
He doesn't half bake his. He double bakes them.
Come on. Anyway, basically, mostly about the live stuff and being able to see them.
I think that's pretty much it for me as well. The live stuff. Do you know what? Logging into Polestar just isn't the same now that the final dates have been they just reported on the final 3 shows from the last 50, and I was like, yes, we've got them all now. I was like, oh shit, now we've got them all. What the fuck do I do with my life? there's no more dots to count. Damn it, Nibbler, damn it. But everything around the shows, whether or not I was interested, but checking the set list, validating the set list, going through the video on YouTube from a show, night after night, just to make sure it matched up and all that. That is a hard thing to let go of, and it's not the same, never will be with a tribute band, because I go in, see a tribute band, I consume it, I enjoy it, I leave, I don't write the set list down to see if it's the same as the last time they played. I don't care if the makeup's a little bit different, and all those little things have kept fans entertained for a long time. So I miss that, and as Ken said, the people side of that as well. Getting together with friends at shows. I miss that at Madison Square Garden. I was seated on my own. I bought my ticket on my own, so I had no control over the people who were around me, and I didn't know any of the people who were around me, and it made for a completely different dynamic from, say, Oakland. And I'm going to miss those opportunities to, get a block of tickets and be with friends, all going crazy at the same time. Because it really does make a difference. What about all you out there? I want to thank everyone who's taken the opportunity to join us today for this live episode. You guys have tuned in with a whole ton of comments, which have been really cool and really contributed to the show. So thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts with us as well as we've gone along. But we're out of time. So that's it for this week. I have no idea what next week is. We play these week to week now. And if we do them, we do them. And if we don't feel it, we won't. So for now, from Mark, from Ken, from Lonnie, myself, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.
Missing